Let's call the St. Tammany Parish Home Rule Charter Advisory Committee to order. Ms. Katrina, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Impastato,
Here.
Mr. Lachlan,
Here.
Mr. Rowland,
Here.
Ms. Tanner,
Here.
Mr. Davis,
Here.
General Ernst,
Here.
Ms. LeBlanc,
Here.
Mr. Shane,
Here.
Parish President Cooper,
Here.
Mr. Delacroix,
Here.
and District Attorney Sims.
Elizabeth Altman on his behalf.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay, so the way we're going to start the meeting is we'll go through each member of the committee, and please introduce yourself. And then we'll go directly into the election of chair for the advisory committee and election of vice chair. Can I pull that pen, please? Do we have another one? Mr. Davis, go ahead.
You want me to go first?
Please.
Is it on? All this high tech. When I was here, we didn't have any. We yelled, across the room. Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to serve. A former parish president, and I worked on the original charter form of government back in '98 when it went from a police jury form to this present form. So it's been exciting to watch, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Elizabeth Altman. I'm the first assistant district attorney to Colin Sims, who is unable to be here today, so I am filling in, but he will be participating on a regular basis.
Arlena LeBlanc, retiree from St. Tammany School System. I moved here in probably 1998, and I actually voted on the Home Rule Charter. So this is a really awesome opportunity to serve in this capacity, so I really do appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Jeff Shane. I'm a local attorney in Covington, and feel very privileged and honored to serve on this committee. I've often wondered what it would be like to sit on this side of the dais. I always assumed it would be really easy because it was always so hard for me at the podium out there in doing the things that I wanted to do. But seriously, I feel very privileged to have an opportunity to work with such a fine group of people and try to find things that will better our wonderful parish.
Cheryl Tanner, councilman from District 6. I want to thank Arthur for appointing me to this committee. I think it's very important that the rural district is representative, and you cannot get really any more rural than I am. So I think it's an honor. Thank you.
My name is Joe Impastato, council member for District 7. It is an honor to serve this parish and also an equal honor to be on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike Cooper, Parish President. It's due time to review the charter, the Home Rule Charter that's been in existence for over 20 years, has several amendments, but due time to address several issues that will be brought to us, and I look forward to serving with my colleagues up here on the dais.
Scott Delacroix. I've been practicing law for about 45 years now. Been a resident of St. Tammany since 1996. I too look forward and am honored to be part of this committee and assure all of you that I and this committee will look very carefully at the initial Home Rule Charter, the attempted Home Rule Charter changes that failed in 2015, and looking at how our current form of government is working throughout St. Tammany Parish, and to whatever extent we can move to change or amend things to the charter, we will work to do that. And more importantly, if I see things that I think are not charter specific, but learn things that I think are ordinance specific, I will respectfully recommend to my councilmen and council lady colleagues here that we look at certain things by ordinance. So it's not just going to be looking just at things that can only be added or amended or changed in the charter. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rowland?
My name is Larry Rowling. I currently serve as the councilman for District 2. My seat's on that side of the row here, which is most of Covington. So previously, I served with the city of Covington 2 terms in District D, also 2 terms at large. And I'm honored to work with everyone on this panel. I think it's going to be exciting for the parish. There's good things to come. And I know we're all going to work very hard at this. Thank you.
Carl Ernst, I'm a retired soldier. I grew up in New Orleans, graduated from LSU, commissioned out of LSU, went away for 33 years, came back to this area after retirement. By the way, Carl works just fine. You don't have to worry about the general. I look forward to this committee. I think it has the potential to do a lot of great work, and I think what we're doing now is timely. I think that work is needed. So I appreciate the ability to work with the people that are on this dais. I've watched many of you in operation for years now, and so it's a privilege for me and an honor to be on this committee.
Mr. Laughlin?
I am Arthur Laughlin. I have the honor to be the councilman for District 11. And not only am I honored to serve here on this committee, I'm very proud of our work. This is something I believe that Chairman Impastato and I started working on in January with President Cooper too. It was one of our first topics for discussion was the need for this. So I feel very fortunate to actually be at this location now.
Thank you very much. Thank all of you for your introductions. Also, please note there should be an election of vice chairman, which is left off of this agenda. So let's go ahead and open the floor now up for nominations for chairman of the advisory committee. Mr. Laughlin, do you have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a nomination that we nominate Mr. Kevin Davis for the chairmanship. I think Mr. Davis has a unique skill set since he was here back when we started this project 25 years ago.
I second the nomination.
Motion, a second by Ms. Tanner. Do we just vote regular, Katrina, or is it a roll call vote? Do we have a paper?
Do we have any other nominations? If not, you need to close the floor to nominations.
Thank you, Ms. Katrina. I apologize. Are there any other nominations? General Ernst.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Arthur Laughlin. I think he is chairman of the council. I think he did a great job. He knows how to run a meeting. I've watched him in operation. I think he'd be a good choice for us.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second?
I don't know if you need a second.
You don't know if you need a second? Okay, so we have 2 nominations.
Do we have a second to that?
We did not get a second. Katrina says we don't need a second.
Mr. Chair, may I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Would the gentlemen that have made nominations be receptive to the idea of Mr. Davis serving as our chair and Mr. Laughlin serving as our vice chair?
I think that's a great suggestion. General Ernst, would you be receptive to that?
I'm sorry, say that again?
As Mr. Davis serving as our chair and Councilmember Laughlin serving as our vice chair.
I would accept whatever this body votes for. No objection.
No objections to that? So you'd be okay if we move forward with that motion? Can we just vote on that, Katrina? Okay, so we have a motion to nominate Mr. Davis as our chairman and Mr. Laughlin as our vice chairman.
Emily wants to say something.
You can't do that?
That's fine, you can do that. If there are no other nominees, you might just want to open the floor for nominees for vice chair. If there are no other nominees, then you can just have them declared by proclamation as they are the only nominees.
There's a reason I did not want to be chairman of this. So let's get me out of this seat as soon as possible. Are there any other nominees for chairman or vice chairman or anyone? Okay, so the only nominations on the floor is for chairman, Mr. Davis, vice chairman, Councilmember Laughlin. So do we vote by the sheet still, or does it matter?
So you could declare it by proclamation.
Okay, congratulations, Mr. Davis. Here's the gavel, and let's trade seats.
Here either, if that counts for anything.
Well, especially all the bad information you give me.
Not quick enough.
Oh, I need to switch seats.
Sorry.
I can move.
Oh, wait, you want me to sit over there? Wait, never mind, you're good. No, Mary's telling me where I'm sitting.
You're here, Mr. Davis.
All right, thank you.
My
Congratulations.
So Deborah Spies was not able to make it today, but she can come at another meeting, or Rebecca from BGR has offered to speak at the next meeting.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, thank you. Hopefully, we'll have a good opportunity over the next 6 months to get to know each other as we go forward, and I look forward to the opportunity. I think as many of us has already spoken, the goal is to review this charter and find those things that we think necessary to forward on to the parish council and then to the public for a vote. I would like to know, only because I haven't been here for a while, who our folks are that are working with us here today. We have, you want to introduce yourselves? Because I don't know everybody.
I am Katrina Buckley. I am the council clerk for St.
Okay.
Tammany Parish.
And I'm Christine Shear, Assistant Council Administrator, and I'll be your main point of contact for the
Okay.
Home Rule Charter.
Great.
And I'm Emily Kuvion. I'm Deputy Chief of the Civil Division for the District Attorney's Office, here to provide legal guidance as needed, and also to remind you that all of our meetings are being broadcast live, and all of your microphones are going to stay live throughout the course of the meeting.
Okay.
My name is Mary Burkell. I am the council administrator. Thank y'all so much for volunteering to do this. Our staff is here to support you. Please don't hesitate to call the office if you need any extra assistance.
Great, thank you. I would like to recognize the council members also who are here.
Jimmy Strickland, District 14.
And Jeff and,
District 13.
great, thank you. Okay, the first item is the presentation by Deborah, but I understand that she is no longer here or wasn't able to make it. Now, there's been some discussion, I was told, that BGR may support.
Yes, if you want a presentation at the next meeting, Rebecca has volunteered to come and give a presentation.
Okay. Would that be all right with the committee? To have BGR make a presentation at the next meeting? The Bureau of Governmental Research, yeah, okay. I think previously we worked with the PAR, I believe it's a Public Affairs Research Council, had done some work for us in the original charter.
Contact them too.
Okay, so not having that, we can review the materials that we have. You look in your binder, the first is the charter with all the approved amendments by voters for you to go through, and then the next is the election.
Mr. Davis, if you don't mind, I just want to remind y'all, this committee is going to make recommendations to the council. So any
Right.
recommendations that's made has to go back to the parish council, and then they will vote on what will actually go on the ballot. And then the voters will have to approve anything from there. So that's why we put those election dates in your packets, just to make you aware. You know, if you get recommendations by this date, that's when we're where we could see it actually going on the ballot, because there is a several-month process between y'all's recommendations and what's actually on the ballot. I also want to point out that before the first tab, you should have had on your desk a piece of paper. We did create an FTP site. So there's lots of documents we're going to be talking about, and I know some people would rather electronic communication, so there is a username and login for that. We will have copies of other charters already loaded on there, but we'll have other information as well, just because it's going to get kind of cumbersome as we move forward. So we did set that up for you, so make sure you have that before you leave.
Okay, great, thank you. I think in the opening statement, we discussed that everyone knows that it does have to go to the council first. So I guess at that point, there could be some revisions or amendments, correct? So everybody knows that. All right.
And in the back was the, some of the recommendations to the home rule charter. Cheryl, there were some studies done previously, and they're not in this binder. I guess we'll have those for the next meeting. Those were mainly just dealing with assessments of the charter as it is today and other areas, mainly I think dealing with makeup, members, how many members, districts, and then also the functionality of the parish council and the administration. The last is the limitations of the home rule charter authority for parish and municipalities. Hopefully you'll go through that. Are there any questions on that from any of the members? No questions? A lot of reading. So the next steps, agenda topics and schedule of future meetings.
So obviously this meeting's a little difficult because this is your first meeting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it came a lot to the staff to try to decide how do we kick this off, right? So we felt the best way to kick this off is to give you all the information, to give you time to review it, and then to come back, right? And y'all can really set the tone and the path that you're going to take as a committee. We didn't want to schedule too much or plan too much because it's really coming from y'all, and I wanted to make sure that was abundantly clear that you are the navigators of this process. So my recommendation to Mr. Davis and the rest of the committee is between now and the next meeting, you please read the charter. I have to tell you, I've read it 5 times and I still have to go back and refer to it all the time. It's you know, it takes a lot. And then also that last document from the Legislative Auditor's Office that really will give you a guide what we can and cannot do. We do have state law that the Home Rule Charter has to abide by. So it'd be great to say President Cooper can maybe make everyone wear purple on Thursdays. That's not, you know, in our ability. I mean, maybe we can do that by ordinance. Okay, we'll do that by ordinance. Gotcha. I was just picking some random example, you know. We want to make sure that we're adhering to what we are able to do, right? Because I think a lot of people I know I've talked to sometimes don't understand that it's just not an open, we can decide whatever. There are some guardrails that we have, that's what I like to call it, when we go through this process. So if y'all are amenable to that, and then we'll talk to Mr. Davis to kind of get the next agenda together. My suggestion would be after you read through the charter, after you read through that, we can brainstorm of some topics. And then I would like to publish that per meeting so the public will know what topics you're talking about, because some people might be interested in specific ones more than others, so they can anticipate what might be coming up.
Yeah. So, Mary, do you think that when we put this together originally, we actually went through each one of the items? Mm-hmm. And if those items weren't controversial or no issues, we just moved on them and went to the next. So I would encourage you probably to read all of this to see. Mm-hmm. I know we have, what, 6 months? May 1st, okay. And I know when I say to go through each one, as you look at the...
And if y'all would rather do it that way, you can, once again, you can organize it however you like. We're just here to support y'all.
So it would be either that way or wait for one of our members to say, I want to discuss this particular item that's in a thing. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be easier, you all tell me what you think, if we just run through it. I mean, you just go through line by line, because I think that the discussion, Mike and council members, you chime in, but I think that the consensus is we want to look at the whole document.
I do have a question, Officer Mary, Chair. How is the public participation going to be in this? Are we going to allow the public to come up and speak on behalf of an item of interest? Okay, I just wasn't sure.
So we have speaker cards, so it's going to be a regular public meeting where
Gotcha.
anything that's on the agenda, someone can come up and give their input.
And then also, on the parish, media, social media, this is gonna be advertised way in advance for the next meeting and the topics?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
Mike?
Thank you. While I think it's important that we do go through every chapter, every section of the Home Rule Charter, I think what's on the forefront of our minds, we might want to address first. And hopefully when we've finished our objectives here, that we send maybe 2 or 3, not more than 3 recommendations to the council. I think we pick those that are most important and not nitpick every line of the charter. 2 that I can think of offhand is the number of council districts. That is brought up almost on a daily basis when I'm asked, what about the size of the council? Is it too large? Is it too small? I think that should be a topic of discussion, as well as the legal department. Parish government had a legal department. The DA, the civil DA now is in charge of our legal counsel. There's a question there of what's best, and I think that should be a topic of discussion, particularly the DA is represented on this board, on this advisory committee, and members of the administration and council. Those are 2 topics that I would like to concentrate on, and again, I would like to avoid sending 5, 6, 10 recommendations to the council to put propositions on the ballot to change. I think we need to concentrate on the most important that are relevant to best operations of parish government.
Okay.
Mr.
My
Davis?
recommendation.
I think that's a good idea, and I'm not opposed to going through the charter as well, but maybe we should go through everyone if they have some specific things that they'd like to discuss, find out what those discussions items are, and then come back next meeting with an agenda to go over those things.
Yeah, I think if everybody goes back and goes through this charter and looks at the items that maybe they have a question on, because I don't know, there may be some policy decisions that you want in this charter, or you want taken out of this charter. I don't know all the aspects of that, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to just echo what Councilman Impastato said, that I think if we come up, perhaps our homework after we leave is like to submit to you, the chairman, our wish list, like what we think is important to talk about, and then we can figure out what we need to do. The other thing I would ask that we bring attention to, and perhaps, I'm not sure if we formally need to open discussion today, or maybe this is for the next meeting, is what resources will we have available? So we mentioned, the BGR, we have the police jury coming up. I'd also remind some of my colleagues, we also have the police jury convention, which is coming up. So there's 64 other parishes. I mean, there was a total of 64 parishes that we can get information and recommendations from them too when we're up there.
Thank you. So your homework is go through this charter, the table of contents, review it, send me or Mary, I guess, both of us, and your particular interest. I mean, one that I'm curious about is the Inspector General. I'm curious about that. I don't see it anywhere in here, so I'd like to at least have discussion on that.
So I had just.
I don't know
I had
how to use
another, your thing. I was just going to give you an overview, and we also have a member of the public who wishes to speak.
Yeah.
But for my colleagues who are new to the dais, the way the system works is when you wish to speak, press request to speak, and then that'll indicate on the chairman that'll indicate what number you are in the queue when you want to mute your mic to kind of hang up, and then this is also the portal we use to vote on. All right, just so everybody knows.
I might need training 101 on this, sir. So I just turned you off or on? There you go.
Now I'm off.
Now you're off. Okay. Mr. Shane?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hold on. He turned you off.
Sorry. It was yellow and I was trying to make it green.
We'll do just fine. We'll figure this out. No, but I would like to say and suggest to not only our committee, but also to the public. I understand the comments of President Cooper and also Chairman Impostata as it relates to developing in due course perhaps a short list of recommendations. But I also think it's very important that we go through the charter line by line, section by section, and however long that list is, it may be our job to then determine what are the most important issues, because it would be cumbersome to present too many suggestions, perhaps to the council and ultimately to the public. But I also think that our job is to lift every stone, take a look at what's underneath it. If we think that there might be a different approach, particularly based on what we learn that's happening in other jurisdictions, I think that's the reason the council formed this committee and wants us to study this from an oversight perspective. So by all means, let's not limit our inquiry and make sure that we do our job, because these committees are not, we haven't served since, or there has not been a body that served since 1998. They don't happen that often. So I think we have to be visionaries and not only think about what our needs are at present, but what our needs are going forward into the future for our parish.
Okay, great. I agree with you. I think we can go through these items pretty quickly. Some of them, the controversial ones, the count, the membership, and those will take longer. But I do agree with Jeff. I think we ought to just kind of run through it. But still, that doesn't mean, I'd like to know in particular what areas you are interested in. At this time, I'll open it up for the floor.
Yes, Carlo Hernandez. I have read the charter more than once, and I go back a ways with the charter. But in any case, one of the things that I guess was mentioned here, and I'm wondering why the public doesn't get to see the same information, apparently, that the committee members are going to get to see. Is there a reason why the public doesn't have access to that information? I believe the public should have access to the same information. One of the, at least for me, the number of times I've read the charter, it's clear that some items in the charter can be changed, as was mentioned earlier, by ordinance. So I guess the question is there a reason then, if it's changed by ordinance, to then now update the charter so that it now reflects that, you know, those changes that have been made? I personally don't believe that that's necessarily, you know, something that needs to be done. As long as it says in the charter that it can be changed by the charter, then I guess that's it. I guess those items that cannot be changed by ordinance by the council, then, you know, that's something else. So I guess I'm having difficulty understanding, unless there are going to be two documents. One saying, okay, this is the updated charter, this is what's been changed by ordinance, and then this is what cannot be changed by ordinance, and therefore needs to be considered by the public, which seems to me like the better approach to this. So that's just my suggestion. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I'm so glad to see all of you here. I have to echo what Carlo just said, and remembering the last Home Rule Charter adventure, I'll just call it an adventure, 4 months, which is effectively what you have now, 1 meeting per month, if that's what you're going to do, a couple hours. The 4 topics you've already raised will eat up that time in no time, because as soon as you start debating any one of those 4 brand new topics, your time will be exhausted. So I don't know whether you can do outside meetings. You want to do outside meetings. You want to get the public's input as well, because those are really big new topics. And if you remember what happened, to President Cooper's point, at the last Home Rule Charter adventure, we ended up with 9 issues on the ballot, and only one of them passed. And it's not because they weren't worthy. It was just because there were too many, people didn't understand them, there weren't enough people engaged. Most people didn't even know this was happening today. I didn't till someone wrote me and told me it was happening. So I think it's important that the public be engaged. You can go line by line, but I don't know that you really need to. It's not that complicated a document. when you've got these 4 really critical new issues to discuss and really delve into to see if that's what we need to do as a parish. That's my suggestion. Thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Mr. Ernst, did you have a comment? I'm sorry.
Going through the charter, sorry, going through the charter line by line, I do not disagree with. I think it's a good idea. I think as we go through the process, whether we do it as individual topics or reviewing the charter as it exists, I think we're going to find some things that we believe are not suitable for placement in the home rule charter. Just not better suited to an ordinance, let's say. When we had the Simple Solutions Committee, we had a process that if we found something that was useful, the staff took that on and developed that into an ordinance for introduction. And every time we met, there was something there was an output, if you will. And we may be able to do that with individual pieces for the home rule charter as well. But if we find something that's worthy, just not worthy for the charter, I don't think we should ignore it. I think we ought to do something about it. I think we're obligated to do something about it by passing it off to the council.
Mr. Laughlin?
Yeah, I had a technical question for staff. It was my original idea that we were going to meet twice a month. Did we change that?
Y'all have not decided
Yeah,
how
we
often you
haven't-
want to meet. So
Gotcha.
that's up to y'all.
Yeah, because of the short deadline, we had anticipated, I remember when I was asking people, we had anticipated a twice a month commitment, just so we could have twice as many meetings.
I certainly agree. The other members, I think it's going to take a lot of time. Scott?
To our council folks here, what is the magic with the May 1st date? I see that was put in the council's resolution last year when the council decided to proceed with this process. I have a feeling, I'd like to hear from each of you because I see no magic in May 1st. We have significant voting coming up on March 29th of this year, constitutional amendments and parish issues. And quite frankly, as painful as it is, I agree with Jeff and Carl, we need to go through this. We should go through it line by line, and I think it will go rather quickly. The second thing I strongly recommend is that everyone study what happened in 2015. The old saying, you need to know history to really go forward well, and you can see the plethora of amendments that were proposed and put in the buffet in 2015, and only, as Ms. Stevens said, one passed. I think we need to look at that because considerable time was put into each of those proposed amendments. So that, in conjunction with being prepared to go forward, I think is important. I also think that we should come out of today's meeting with a scheduled next meeting with BGR and perhaps PAR or an Inspector General person to come, something that really, I believe, whets the appetite of people that they'd like to discuss. And in the meantime, while we all do our further homework, I think we can appropriately communicate to our chair and vice chair the issues that each of us see as being pressing and that we would like to have public discussion on. But first off, May 1st, is that a real deadline?
I think, Mr. Impastato, you going to, but I think it's because of the issues with elections. Is that correct? I mean, my assumption is that because you have to have it by May 6th for...
So the deadlines for proposition language to the Secretary of State for the October 11th, 2025 election would be June 11th, 2025. And for the November 15th, 2025 election, the proposition language would have to be due to the Secretary of State by September 22nd, 2025. So it's not that the May 1st date can't be changed by the council, but I believe that was the impetus in providing that date, so that there would be sufficient time to get that on a council agenda and be voted on prior to the September 22nd date. And just so you all know, and Mary touched on it briefly as well, you all are an advisory committee. You will be making recommendations for any changes to the home rule charter. Those will have to go to the parish council. They can only make it onto a ballot with a 2/3 vote of the parish council. And then after it's on a ballot, it would have to be approved, of course, by a majority of the electors in St. Tammany Parish. So just so you all are aware of the process.
Mr. Impastato?
I was going to ask Emily that question. But it does seem to be the majority of the group would like to just go through the charter line by line. And we will accomplish covering those key topics with that as well. So I'd like to suggest that we do that.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Laughlin?
Yeah, I was just going to add, so when we were envisioning this, we reversed engineered a deadline. So if we want the product of this committee to go into effect, let's say next year in 2026, May 1st would be the deadline. But I mean, I also think too, and this is something we can discuss and we can make the proper motions, but something we could do is we could also extend this meeting afterwards, but May 1st being the deadline, if we wanted to have a deliverable, that deadline would be May 1st in order to go through the natural process of the council.
Correct, yeah. Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes. I'd just like to add to the conversation about getting the information out to the public. I hear all of our deadlines and everything to be incorporated into the meetings and getting it before council. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the public that's going to have to decide whether or not this is going to be incorporated or, come to fruition. So I think at some point we just need to incorporate how we're going to get this information out. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought I read somewhere in the documents about public hearings were held in 2015. So I don't know if, when we're talking about adjusting the dates, if we are going to include those public hearing dates as well. But it just seems to be, so we don't repeat the past history, that we must include or kind of, give some credence to the reasons behind, what happened in 2015 so that we don't see it taking place again.
Okay. I think that the items, just so the public knows, the items that we have probably are the same that you, so I don't know if staff will, at our next meeting, produce all that and put it to make sure it's out there.
And I'll
I mean,
try to,
the only thing I have in my binder is the charter and election date, so it's not to answer somebody's question that says we don't know what you know. That's all I have. So we will make sure that these documents are sitting out there for our next meeting.
We just created a tab on the website for Home Rule Charter, so we'll upload everything.
Okay, and they're also telling me they'll have it on the website. So who's next? Mr. Laughlin?
Mr. Delacroix.
Mr. Delacroix?
Just to clear up, it sounds like we're sticking with the May 1st date. I asked because, as Ms. LeBlanc just stated, I think this is the committee that the parish council would like us to engage the public as much as we can, have as much discussion here without the pressing deadlines that our council has with other business at meetings. Being a trial attorney, I think our jury are the citizens, and they need to feel comfortable with our process and understand it rather than trying to understand it before the parish council addresses it after we issue our report. And I have a feeling that was not done in 2015 through no fault of anyone's, but I think we can try to do a lot better with engaging the public and reaching out to specific groups asking for engagement.
Yeah.
I would rather us do that and have something to go to the voters in 2026 than to move this quickly this year, unless there's some pressing public security need that I don't hear about for 2025. I think this is our chance to get it as good as we can, packaged up with a full public record, and then I think we better our chances in 2026 when people vote.
Okay. Yeah, from a legal counsel standpoint, what is the issue with the May? Or the May, it's in the resolution for the charter to have a response to them by May 1st?
That was just the will of the council that passed the resolution setting up the Home Rule Charter Advisory Committee. It's not that date cannot be changed.
Okay, so it could be appropriate for this body to do a resolution requesting that they extend the date. I think what I'm hearing is we're going to need to meet at least twice a month to go through this, because there are going to be some hot topics that are going to be lengthy discussions, I know. And I think that, is that a consensus, at least twice a month? The other thing I would say is, for this first meeting was fine to have a 2 o'clock, but most people are working, so nobody can get to these meetings anyway. So I would encourage that we discuss, when we did them at the 6 o'clock hour in the evening. I don't know what that does to staff support.
There's just one change in the law, actually from this last legislative session, that requires all committee meetings to be broadcast live. So that affects our public information office and their availability to be here, and payment for those employees to broadcast these meetings live. So that is a change in the law since this committee was last formed in 2015.
So
it has to be considered.
That's why council committee meetings have been moved to the afternoon as opposed to the evening.
Sounds crazy to me. I mean, how much money are we talking about? Somebody let me know how much money it is, and I'll see if I can raise it. I mean, I just don't think, I think the public ought to have the opportunity to be able to come into this chambers and see what we're doing. The television, I can tell you, it's 3 o'clock now or 1:45 or something, and they're busy at work. I mean, Mike, I don't know if somebody could tell me that. I'm sorry. All right, Mr. Laughlin.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's important that we probably move on that issue, but also one of the things we had to consider when we were with the new law is it's not only the availability of the TV staff, who are actually the specialists, because they're not just anybody can do what these guys do. They do a great job. It's also our staff and the availability of the outside resources to come to us. So I understand what your point about moving it to the evening, but it's going to be an extra cost for us that we need to consider, and also the availability of those outside agencies to come to give us presentations. But that was just the mindset when we moved the committee meetings to the daytime, was to accommodate the new law.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Impastato.
Emily, to change the date, what exact council action is needed to move it?
Just a revised resolution by the council.
Okay, which is very easy.
So we could make that request through a resolution?
We could just
here?
take care of that. I don't think any council members would have an issue with that whatsoever.
Okay.
And look, I don't think it was ever intended to be a hard date. If it takes us more time to get our work done, not going to be a problem. Okay, but we'll go ahead and do something on the next agenda to get it extended, to put you all at ease at that. As far as the evening meetings, and Kevin, I agree with you. You want as many people to be able to see this as possible. But there are a lot of other challenges. We've had a lot of late meetings lately that make it a little more challenging to have night meetings. A lot of homeowners meetings, fire commission meetings. So that was one of the other reasons that the daytime was a little more practical. But I'd be open to either. But there are some other things that I think we should take into consideration. And the good thing about a television recording is that it's, you can watch it anytime. I watch it all the time. So just a thought regarding the meeting time. But we will take care of the hard date on the meetings at the next council.
So for the members, the May date is not to be concerned going forward. Would it be possible to do, if we meet twice a month, could we do one of those meetings in the evening? Can staff or somebody review that and let me know?
I will.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, Mr. Ernst?
Follow up. I think if the things are important, having the public support for this is the most important thing we will get done. If we don't get the public support, they'll do what they did last time. They'll reject our work. Okay. So if it takes meeting in the evenings, in 2015 they met in the evenings. Right? And so if it takes meeting in the evenings to get the public support, I'd say find out, have someone tell us why that cannot be done in the evenings. And so, I mean, in terms of resources, right? And then let this body decide what recommendation they're going to make to the council.
Thank you. Mr. Laughlin?
Oh,
I'm
I've
sorry.
already spoken, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members?
Mr. Shane and
Ms. Tanner?
I think at least one of the meetings should be at 6 o'clock, if not both of them. Because what we're doing is really, we're trying to get the public involved to see how it needs to be changed. And if that's the best way to do it, then we probably need to do it that way.
Yeah, and I think I know most of the members. I think we want to hear from the public to say, because I know when we get to the hot topics, you know, the ones about a smaller council, I think we want to hear from our constituency to say it's not an issue or it is an issue and those kinds of things. And I just don't see them getting here at 2 o'clock. So, ma'am, do you want to speak?
Mr. Shane
Thank
does
you.
also.
My name is Joyce Linlow. I'll give you the card in a minute. Most of you know me. First of all, and as I've mentioned to you, Mr. Impastato, and I've mentioned to Mr. Laughlin and I've to Mr. Phillips, please speak into your mic. Speaking of you, Ms. Tanner, speaking of you, Mr. Ernst. If you don't speak into the mic, and if you look around in here, most of us are on the older side and the hearing has gone. Okay, so speak up so we can understand you. Otherwise, I am going to stand up and say, excuse me, I can't hear you. And doctor said not hearing aids yet. Second, on meeting notices, I'm here all the time, Mr. Cooper, you know that, and so most of you. And I get these notices. I send it out to my email list of 300 citizens in this parish whenever something comes up that I think happens to be of importance. I try to find these things on the website and really have a hard time, Mr. Cooper. Perhaps meetings like this could be on the homepage. Another resource we might want to use to let people know would be subdivision presidents or homeowners association presidents. I asked around, no one knew about the meeting. For instance, tonight's meeting, people were not aware of the Magnolia. I sent that notice out as well as this one. As my husband asked me yesterday, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing the free work of the council. Live meetings are great, but of course you don't get the interaction, but it's better than nothing. Second, will these be recorded that we can see them later? Thank you. And I can't read what else I said, wrote to myself. But a note to myself, my handwriting is getting poor. But if you could please get those notices out to a larger group, maybe even to when you have the planning meeting tonight, the commission meetings and whatever, maybe those notices can go out to them too. Just a verbal, hey, while y'all are here, you're gonna be here anyway. That's the group that comes to let them know.
Yeah, great,
And
thank
whether
you.
or not, they told me, it doesn't matter to me, I'm 74 years old, I'm sort of retired. All my time is flexible.
Great, thank you so much. Mr. Shane?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to kind of move forward and make a suggestion and see how the committee feels. Why don't we think about maybe the second and fourth Tuesday of the month? On the second Tuesday of the month, why don't we engage at 2? And I hope no one screams, but maybe commit until 5 o'clock. If we find that we don't need a 3-hour meeting, we don't have to stay till 5. But I'd like the public to know that we're prepared, because I think in the first few meetings, we're not only going to have to be educated, but it's going to take some time to go through the charter section by section. And perhaps on the fourth Thursday of the month, we begin at 6, and again, provide the same 3-hour window. Doesn't mean that we wouldn't take care of similar discussions in the beginning of the meeting, but we know that this will be a better opportunity for the public to attend, participate, and ask questions. Maybe we try that for a month. If that doesn't seem to have been effective, this committee can easily change the dates, the times, etc. But I think it'll give us the best of all worlds.
Yeah, the second or first Tuesday is the zoning meeting here in this chamber.
Not until the evening, though.
In the evening,
So
yeah.
if we went the second Tuesday from 2 to 5, we'd be out before their 6 o'clock meeting. And if we went the fourth Tuesday, typically I think the council chamber is open, meaning that there's not a standing meeting that would be held that evening. Now, if it needs to be a Wednesday, a Thursday, I mean, I leave that to the will of the committee.
Okay.
You have several in the queues. President Christian.
President Cooper?
Okay, points well taken. Regarding the meeting times and dates, I would like to suggest that on the second Tuesday, like today, that the meetings begin at 2:30. The Regional Planning, the Regional Planning Commission meets on the second Tuesday of the month, and I had to rush to get over here. Luckily, the meeting was short today. But I would suggest on the second Tuesday, the meeting be at 2:30 if it's going to be held in the afternoon, if there's no objection to that.
So the second Tuesday, your recommendation is 2:30 for the second
Yeah,
Tuesday?
like 2:30 to 5.
Okay, Mr. Rowland, I'm sorry. Who was next? Ms. Tanner. They actually have numbers on these, okay.
We're so glad you're learning the system.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the two meetings having,
Okay.
as Jeff and Mike said, I think that would be good. I don't know whether we need that in form of a motion, or I'll second whatever. And let's try that and see how it works.
Yeah, I would like to get it in a motion, because I would like to be able to give it to the public so that they'll know exactly when we're going to be meeting and the times. The other part, Mr. Rowland?
I'm sorry. Do you mind? Okay, thank you. Well, I'm confused already, and I'm only kidding on that, okay? I think we have to make it perfectly clear to the public about all these like maneuvering of times is going to be confusing to the public. You know, what Tuesday is it? What Tuesday is that? I think this is going to be a very critical time for our parish, and we have to make it as easy as possible. And I understand some of the committee meetings that I'm involved in now with the council, it's hard to get here, just even if you do have another job, but I have a responsibility and I'm here. But I know the public cannot get here. That's critically important, because I want to hear every single person come to this podium, because they can have ideas we don't have. So I want them in this room. I want to hear them. So I know there's a will, there's a way for the parish to make exceptions to have someone forecast this live to the public, because it needs to be by law. And I know we can make an exception on this. So I'm not in favor of changing times. We need to set a time. We need to be, solid with that, so the public understands what they up against twice a month, if it's going to be twice a month or once a month or whatever we're going to do. But they get them in these chambers. And I am not in favor of confusing them on time. So I really want everybody to really think very, very hard on this, because without their support, we don't get any of this done. And they have to have input. They have to have the engaging of this, because it will not, and none of this will pass. So just think about that. Understand we're trying to flex with the schedules of everybody and see what might work and what might not work. And if the committee wants to go that route, fine. But I just really want everyone to think about getting the public in this room at a time that they can get in here. This parish works extremely hard to pay their bills. They have to work. And if they have a passionate thing they want to talk about the size of the new council going forward, or anything else in here, I want them at that podium. So just really think hard about this. I don't know if we have to make that decision right this second or not. I'm not really sure. We can. But look, the taxpayers in this parish pay a lot of money to this parish. We know that. And if we have to make an exception sometime to have someone broadcast this live, or some employees to be here, I get that. That's called flex time too, and it exists. So that being said, that's pretty much what I have, and that's the way I would like to see it go.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Laughlin?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to, one point of personal privilege, just to explain to the public, for those following along, we have to follow the public meetings rules. So this is the first time this body has met to actually discuss when we're going to meet. So there is a little bit, for anybody who thinks that this is the reason why we have to do this. The second thing is, I wanted to play parliamentarian for a second. So I believe we have a we have a motion by Mr. Shane, amended by Mr. Cooper, seconded by Councilwoman Tanner, but we also have a competing motion by Mr. Rowling. So I just wanted to point that out to the chairman to let you know that's kind of where we are on this.
I didn't hear a motion. There
Do
were
we
no
need,
motions.
then we don't, do we need to have a,
Well, I told her I would like to get a motion when we finally finalize this discussion.
Gotcha.
Of what we're going to do. Now that you mention it, my assumption is we're operating under Robert's Rules of Order. That's an assumption on my part. I don't want to get into an argument with somebody later, so I don't know if we need to make that part of our process and vote on that to say we're going to follow Robert's rules. We could actually appoint a parliamentarian up here so that when we get into, because this may get heated, we're following some decor with the rules of the body. And I know I've seen a lot of things where you don't let people speak over so many minutes and all of that. So, I'm sorry? Yeah, I guess we could put that, I don't mind putting it on next agenda, but I think it has to be one of the first items that we address. Mr. Shane?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt Robert's Rules of Order for this advisory committee.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Who's second? Scott? We're going to do a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. All right, now the time. So I've heard a lot of discussion. Mr. President has asked that we look at 2:30 if we're going to do a daytime on a Tuesday. There seems to be, I'm just looking at y'all's calendar, there's some conflicts. I don't know if we should pass this calendar out to the members, or either let's pick the next date and then let's decide for you to look at these calendars. But the second Tuesday, you have the zoning meeting in here at 6. The last one, you have some group is using the chambers. The Republican Party, I think, is using the chambers. I mean, it looks like you got Thursdays open. Thursdays are open. If that's not an issue for anybody. Is that an issue?
Yeah, just not the first Thursday of the month.
Yeah. Right. The 3rd and the 4th. I mean, I'm just looking at the February calendar, so if somebody could help me, do you have another calendar that I really would like to have a 6 p.m. meeting. I'm okay if we do one at 2:30, Mike, if it's on that Tuesday. But I really want an evening meeting for the public to be able to come here to see all of us. Mr. Shane.
Chair, I'm going to try again.
Okay.
I'm going to recommend but also move that the committee consider meeting the second Thursday of each month from 2:30 to 5:30, 3 hours, and also the fourth Thursday of each month from 6 to 9, with the understanding that if we evaluate after the first month that it's not working for us, but more importantly, we're not giving the public the adequate opportunity to participate and be a part of what we're doing, we're going to have the good sense to change it.
So that is a motion. We have a second. Any other discussion? Mr. Offer?
Yeah, Thank you. I would just like to say, in support of this, one of the things we could do is perhaps relax the rules for the public. So if we discuss something on at a day meeting, the public, and if they can't make it, but they can make it to the following meeting, then we would allow them to speak on something that's on the previous agenda.
Yeah. I would like to, a great idea. What I'd like to do is have, in the beginning of these minutes, to show what was done previously. Like if there's a resolution that came out of it, and then give the public the opportunity to talk on that particular resolution that was passed by this body, okay?
And you can do a voice vote or you can do an electronic vote.
I'm not up to speed on electronic yet, so I'm going to do a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Opposed? So noted. 2. The motion passes.
Okay. We have the meeting rules, the Roberts rules. We have the date set for our next meeting.
What is the date for our next meeting?
It's going to be,
The 4th, Thursday.
since we just met,
No, that's February.
oh, that's February. Yeah.
Mr. Davis, could you just repeat what this was, that you all just voted on?
It was,
I can repeat
Yeah, we
it if
could-
you like.
yeah, you go ahead.
This was a vote on the meeting date and times. It would be the second Tuesday, 2:30 to 5:30, and the fourth Thursday, 6 to 9.
And
Yes, I'm sorry, it's Thursday for both. Thursday.
Thursdays.
All right. It's both Thursday, the second Thursday from 2:30 to 5:30, the
Yes.
fourth Thursday from 6 to 9.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, I repeated, I get it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So our next meeting will be
January 30th.
January 30th? January 30th. Mr. Rowland?
Did you say the 13th? I'm sorry. February 13th?
Yes.
One of them, we have a convention, so I know we'll be missing 4 people.
I don't think all members are going to the convention.
I'm not here.
Who's going to convention? Okay.
I just think me and Larry. Cheryl, are you going? Okay.
I just don't know
Yeah.
that this meeting
Yeah.
is this early on, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to,
That's going to be our next meeting?
Any buffers in this. I'm just saying,
Oh, that'd be
you know,
the
you might be
third
missing
meeting,
some
yeah.
of the councilmen.
Well, you'll be here at the 30th, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Next meeting.
That's a nighttime meeting at 6 PM here. Again, what I would encourage you to do, as we've already discussed, is to go,
The 30th, I'm not here.
I'm not available on the 30th either.
I'm sorry.
okay.
I'm out of the country, sorry.
Okay, the fourth Thursday is the 23rd, which is next week,
Okay, we have a
Right.
majority still will be here on the 30th.
the 30th.
I would encourage those that aren't going to be here, if you want, just send me a little note, as you, I think our consensus is, and I'll just go back through it. We're actually going to start with article incorporation, and we're going to start with the home rule charter and just go through it. Some of these items will very quickly for the public's knowledge. You know, I'm going to go back through it all, but, you know, section 101, probably no discussion, we'll move on, okay? To give you an idea how the motions will be moving through this process. So I would encourage those that aren't going to be able to make that meeting, just to let us know your feelings on any one of those. Because we'll probably get through to Article 2 at least. That'd be our goal. And then that next meeting will begin the process of composition. Mr. Laughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to, at this point, I'd like to make a motion that, to kind of give us some homework, that we come up with a list of topics that we think that are important. President Cooper mentioned a couple of them. And I think we should put I'm not sure what deadline we should do, but at least this way we could have it by, not the next meeting, but by at least the meeting after that, we could have those on the agenda.
Okay. We have a motion? A second? Second. Any discussion? Any objections? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so moved. All right.
Can we please clarify who those suggestions are going to go to? Are they going to go to the chairman and the vice chair? Are they going to go to council's, I'm sorry, the committee staff?
Those recommendations?
Yes.
I would say go to staff, because I don't think everybody, well, I know you put it in the book, if everybody knows our emails, but it'd probably be better if it went to staff. It'd just be easier, that way you wouldn't have to worry about I lost it or I forgot it, or,
Okay, thank you.
you know.
And to clarify, your point of contact on the staff is Christine Scherer.
Christine? Okay. Mike, I saw you looking up. Did you have a comment?
Before we close, I'd like to,
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to,
Can you press your button, President? Thank you.
I'd like to recognize Gina Hayes, Chief Administrative Officer, who will be my designee in the event I'm not at a meeting. The resolution appointing me as a member of this committee also allows me to have a designee. So in my absence, Gina will be serving in this seat. Thank you.
Great. With that comment, are the council members allowed to have us, if they're not going to be here? I just didn't know.
No, the resolution does not allow for designees
Okay.
on behalf of the council members.
I was just curious. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Any other items to come before? Anything I've missed? I'm going to, yes, sir, I'll get to you in 1 minute. I'll just ask the members. Anything? Yes, sir.
The only comment I have is I think it's the Marine in me coming out, but we should say the pledge. You should have the pledge and the prayer before beginning of the meeting. That's all I had to say.
Good point. Thank you. I didn't really start it, so I don't know if I don't want to point fingers, but we will do that. We will do that officially, yeah.
You have a couple more people in the
All right, who was first?
Mr.
Laughlin, Mr. Laughlin.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Great. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I thought we did it anyway. Mr. Rollins?
This is for Emily. Thank you. For Emily, you were talking about the designees if somebody was absent, right? If we're going to go back with a resolution on a council level to extend anything or change anything, for the May 1st deadline, couldn't at that point in the resolution state that if a councilman isn't here, that we do have someone in our seat? Could that be done at the same time is the question?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think maybe our chair might consider that, to bring that to our council if we have to make any additional changes. Just a thought. Thank you.
Yeah, I think he had already earlier agreed, yeah.
I'm sorry. Get my mic again. I'm sorry. I meant to just have a designee for the council members. You did mention that before. I didn't hear it.
We talked about,
Yeah.
we talked about the meeting time, but we can talk about that and see if it's a viable option.
Yeah. I was just saying it because I know probably the president's seat, also the district attorney. So I'm thinking, maybe why not
Because they're
the
more important than
council?
us. We need to get to meetings.
I know that, but I mean, it
I'm
would be
kidding.
nice to
No,
have
it's something
someone
we can
here. I mean,
consider.
I don't
was
think
just
I'm out
kidding.
of
We can
line with
consider
that.
it. No, we can consider it for sure.
Okay. One last thing, just for my own, so I understand, what is our rules in respect to public comment? I know that the council has some rules, but those rules don't necessarily mean we have to.
Sure. So as a committee formed by the Parish Governing Authority, which is the Parish Council, you all are subject to Louisiana Open Meetings Law. So even though you adopted Robert's Rules of Order, which will be helpful in meeting conduct, we do still have to always comply by Louisiana Open Meetings Law, which basically has three components. We have to have meeting notice, work from an agenda that's published, and we have to allow public participation before voting on any agenda item. So the Parish Council has a rule for 3-minute speaking time for members of the public. You all can opt to extend that rule to this committee as well. You all could extend that time frame, shorten it. It has to be a reasonable period of time under Louisiana Open Meetings Law, but you do have to give some speaking time before you're allowed to take action on any agenda item. So I don't know if you want to make a motion now to adopt a public speaking time, or if you want to wait until the first meeting, see how things go, and do it at that point in time. Again, we already talked about how the meetings are broadcast, and I do want to just remind you all too that as a public committee, any of your communications are subject to the Louisiana Public Records Law. So anyone that makes a public records request for those communications could receive copies of that. So just be mindful of that as you communicate. And of course, the meetings are broadcast live. So just be mindful of that as well. Make sure you're speaking into your microphones, because even though we can hear each other in this room, if we don't speak into the microphones, it's not picked up on the broadcast.
Okay. Mr. Delacroix.
The only thing, Mr. Chair, I would ask is that a fiscal note be sent to staff so that we members can see what the cost is should we decide to call an audible and have all-night meetings, just so that we are educated on the cost.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Impastato?
I was going to say, can we just do a motion and adopt the same rules for this meeting as we do for our council meetings? All right, so I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and the motion is that we would follow the same rules, I'll get to you, same rules as the council, which is, tell me again.
The same rules for public participation at public meetings, which is a 3-minute speaking time per member of the public, that they use a speaker card to identify themselves and that they want to speak on a topic, and that they cannot act disruptively in a meeting. So if they have a sign or want to record the meetings, that they do so in these designated areas on the side of the room, so as not to impede anyone else's view of the meeting.
Is it in their rules, any member of the council or this body be able to extend that time?
Yes, that is included in the rules, that the chairman,
Okay, so a
at their
member
discretion,
here
can extend the time.
could say, I want so-and-so an additional 3 minutes or additional time, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yes, ma'am, from the public.
Personally, I think 3 minutes is perfectly adequate. I think it's very fair. The 1 minute, however, on issues that might be postponed, might not be spoken about, that the council does employ, not a good idea. Sometimes when you don't talk about items, or items are moved to other time periods, you will miss that person's opportunity. To your point, that person may only be able to come one particular meeting, and they need to get their 3 minutes in. So if you deny them by using that council measure, whether you only get 1 minute, if something is to be postponed to the next minute, then you will lose. So I would recommend that you don't do that. Just let people have their 3 minutes and be done. And
Great.
yes, to your point, if they need, see they're not being redundant and you want to give them more time, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, but I would encourage the members to be able to do that because they may want to hear more from the individual.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, but it was the 1 minute, on items that weren't going to be discussed or were going to be postponed. But you've already talked about that earlier, that if
Well, I
something
think-
was talked about one meeting and people weren't there and they wanted to talk about it at the next meeting, give them that 3 minutes.
Yeah.
That's my point.
I think my colleagues will find that I will go a little bit further than as we have this evening to make sure, because I think what I'm hearing is they want to hear from the public. They want to know exactly what we're all thinking. Yes, sir. Your name?
Carlo Hernandez. Another rule that's in the council rules is that if it's not on the agenda, then the public can't speak on it. So I think that needs to be addressed. If it's not on the agenda, the public cannot speak on an item that's not on the agenda.
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty lenient in that respect, so I don't know, has that been a problem? Is that a problem? I mean, I can only see it because remember what we're talking about. We got a daytime meeting, then we have a nighttime meeting, so I didn't make the daytime meeting, and now I got a question about what happened. But what I'm going to try to do is put in the beginning of the meeting anything that we moved on, so there would be the opportunity for public input on what happened. I'm sorry?
You can make a section entitled Old Business.
Old business, yes. But any comments? Do I have some lights on? Oh, I got a whole bunch. Lucille Blanc, I'm sorry.
Okay. This is just for my clarification. On the agenda, I think we had talked about it a little bit earlier, like we will designate or state what section we are going
Yes,
on
ma'am.
or speaking to on
For the
that
next
day.
meeting, we will
Correct.
have, I kind of went through, and I'll get with the staff, but I was thinking, let's get through this Article 1 at least, the way the public will know. We're going to get into the hot issues probably, I'm sorry, Mr. President, you may not be here. It's going to be that next meeting, which will be qualifications and composition. So
Thank
that
you.
date. Let me get to my other members and I'll get to you. I've got a bunch that I didn't realize how this works. So now, Mr. Laughlin.
Ma'am, what you said to my colleague's point to my right, that's why I think it's important that we submit our agenda items so that we can match them to where they are. Legal can say, okay, well, you're considered, for example, size of the council. We can match that to when that's appropriate to come up, when it'll just naturally come up on our calendar.
Very good. Mr. Rowland.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Going back to the topic issue, like if the public brings another topic there that we're not discussing, I'm really not in favor of that. I know you'll make the final decision on that, because I think if we're not prepared for that topic, even though if we discussed it, a couple of meetings before, I think it gets very confusing to maybe even some of the other members of the public, and also to make sure we stay in line. That's why I think the council does it that way. That way there's less confusion.
I agree. I'm going to give some latitude in discussions, but I do think that if the third month somebody wants to bring up something that we passed on the first month, I might not be quite as liberal to open that up, because we had a lengthy discussion, but I will be pretty open to public discussion. So just so you know. Any other comments? I did say, we did Robert's rules. Would it be appropriate for someone to be our parliamentarian? For one of us to be the parliamentarian? Maybe Scott, since you're a lawyer, or General, or somebody. You do that? Because you've got a motion and a second for Scott Delacroix to be the parliamentarian, to make sure that we follow the rules. Yes, ma'am, you wanted to speak.
Again, to Carlo's point, I think what he might be referring to is, I don't know if there was a time period before the convening of this committee for the public to weigh in on what their concerns were about how the council operates. Because Carlo can correct me if this is not what he means, you all have decided what your hot topics are that are not in the charter currently, but you don't know what the public may have as a hot topic, or a good topic, or something that you all might want to consider, but you haven't even thought about it yet. So if you don't give them an opportunity to bring something up that's not on the agenda, you don't have to deliberate, you don't have to decide on it, but to hear their opinion, you don't know what it is, you don't know when it's going to come up, but since you have not spoken or opened it up to the public already to get their input before your committee has convened, you might want to do that just to find out what the public actually thinks. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Laughlin?
Yeah, I would actually, I think Terry makes a valid point. I think what we should do is perhaps, if at the next meeting we have the opportunity to have the speakers come to give us the do's and do nots, which is what we can and can't do kind of with this document that we're working on, then we could open it up to a public hearing to let them submit or voice what they think is their concerns and their suggestions for us to consider.
It's a good idea. Mm-hmm.
And in addition, I would tell everybody on this public record, we are a representative form of government, so you can also submit things through your councilman or your councilwoman if you want to make sure you're heard, and also submit them to the council too.
Great. Mr. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could suggest that maybe you have staff post our meeting dates between now and end of April on the website.
Yeah.
And also that if we need to do this by motion, but have the chair and staff determine the agenda for each forthcoming meeting, so that agenda likewise can be posted on the website. I think that will solve a lot of the discussions we've had in the last 15 minutes. If everyone will be patient, including myself, I mean, we're just learning how to ride this bicycle. But I think the one common theme you've heard today is that we want everyone to be a part, and we want to hear what you think. So give us a chance. We're going to figure out the best way to present not only our ideas, but to let you present your ideas to us, so that we can truly make this a collective effort.
We'll do that. We'll put those dates on there.
Our next meeting will be next week.
Yeah, our next meeting will be next week because of the 2nd and the 3rd, because we meet.
So I'd like to suggest if we could wait till the 30th to give us a little bit more time, and I know several members of this committee will be out of town on the 24th. So I'd like to propose y'all meet next on the 30th.
For the next meeting. I don't have that calendar, you got it.
We have somebody in Tuesday.
Mr. Laughlin?
Ms. Altman.
Arthur? Alderman, I'm sorry.
Yes, I was just wondering how far in advance do we need to submit our agenda items so that we have adequate time to review those before the meeting?
I would think the day before. I mean, at least we can get them in here within some reasonable time for them to.
The agenda has to be posted 24 hours in advance, so no less than 24 hours.
I think it
Okay.
may be good practice to try to get your agenda items the Thursday between the meeting weeks. So the first and third Thursdays of the month would be the deadline to submit the agenda items to give the chair and the staff time to draft the agenda, get it approved, and post it within the 24-hour deadline. Just throw that out there as a suggestion, and then I'd also just like to remind the committee that y'all have a motion and a second on the floor now to adopt the public participation rules. Just a little reminder.
Call for the question on outstanding motion.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. We got into discussion. So call the question and then forward discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now your question is the date next Thursday.
They want to move that meeting to the 30th.
You want to move it to the 30th? Well, I don't want to get into moving these dates, but okay. What's the issue with next week?
Washington Mardi Gras is next week, and I think several members of this committee will be in DC lobbying for the parish.
Yeah, we have the same situation on the 14th.
Discussion? Any discussion? The issue is there may be some council members that are going to go to the Washington Mardi Gras next week, and they may not be here. My feelings are we've set the dates, we need to roll with them. I mean, I'm sorry that somebody won't be here. Is the staff going to be here?
I will not be here. I don't know if you'll have a quorum. That's why I'm bringing it up.
We'll have a quorum.
You'll have someone in your place, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have a quorum.
Okay.
I mean, I encourage them to go because I think it benefits the parish, but I don't want to, keep moving dates around because somebody's not going to be able to make it. So if you're okay with that, we're going to stay with it unless y'all want to do a motion. I mean, I'll entertain a motion, but we got the dates. It's going to be, I'm sorry, we had somebody?
That's okay, he's good.
So the next meeting is the 23rd.
And that time on that one, just to be clear, is
6 p.m.
That would be the 6 p.m. meeting. 6 p.m., the 23rd, here in the chambers. And they're going to figure out how to get the TVs, people to get here.
And then on February is the 13th and the 27th, just so we can start really planning.
Yes, we'll put together that calendar and get it out, but you are correct. Yes.
Look, one thing that I take very seriously is to make meetings. And after doing this for a long, long time, I try to schedule everything around council meetings. If it's my vacation or if I have to be out of town for a convention. I think because we deciding a lot of this today, I'm sure there's a lot of people on this panel that have things already scheduled. I already have things scheduled for the next 3 months and not knowing what this schedule was. So I know the public might look at it that we might not be here, but it's really not. I don't think we try not to be here. So I know until we kind of get this thing rolling a little bit, and so these dates are so critical to get in our calendar because we have so many other committee meetings or being out of town. We didn't have the luxury not to have these dates, when we were planning things 2 months ago. So that being said, I take it very serious. I know everybody here is going to take it very serious too. So just have a little patience if somebody isn't here, just like the convention that I think Mary was talking about and things coming up. I mean, we just didn't have our dates yet. So that being said, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be that some people will be absent, but now that we have the dates, hopefully we're going to get them on their calendar. Mr. Delacroix?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, I would respectfully suggest that if we can at all possible, try to avoid a 24-hour notice being posted of our agenda for all the obvious reasons that we've spoken about. Citizen participation, I think we should strive for, if we meet on a Thursday, we should strive to get that meeting notice posted on Monday. That makes it harder on us, but frankly, I don't think it's that hard. We know the issues. We have good people on the committee that can appropriately assist with the chair and vice chair. And I would also suggest that on the first meeting we have, we consider a standing open item for citizens to make a suggestion to us of areas that they think we should look into. I don't think we should wait for that. I think we should open it up so we can hear, as we're going through line by line, word by word, page by page, the 30-plus page charter.
Okay. I mean, if it's a consensus, just to give you an example, let me kind of run through where I see this happening, and you can correct me or we can change it or whatever. At the next meeting, we're going to discuss Article 1, the incorporation of this form. Most of that is very simple. Hopefully, you're going to read it before we come here next time. So when we go through Section 101, does anybody have a comment? Anybody have a suggestion? Any changes? Public, any changes, any comments on this section? And that way we'll go through it. I mean, some of it should go fairly quickly.
I think it will. Because most of us, I think it will, because most of us, I think, have already read it.
Yeah, I think what we got to be aware of is I don't want to host the 2 o'clock meeting on the controversial issues. I'd like those to be in the evening. But I already see in Article 2 is the composition. So
I realize it could raise a touchy issue, but I think raising a proposed agenda item from the citizens for us to look at, we can separate that from arguing or suggesting one side or the other. Just raising the issue for us to look at. I'm a proponent of being able to say every meeting we ask for public participation for anything they wanted us to look at in the charter. Withhold discussion of that until we vote on a proposed amendment. And I think it behooves and benefits all of us to have that available for citizens who may only be able to make one meeting.
Yeah.
But we'll hear from them.
Well, let me ask you all a question. Would you, at the next meeting, it'd be pretty quick, want to have the first, and we can ask you to look at Article 1, and we don't have to roll through that, but we could actually do the composition at the next meeting at night. And let's go ahead and begin that process at the next meeting.
I think that may engage more people. And I think that is one issue that seems front and center.
Mr. Impastato?
I wanted to speak briefly about the meeting schedule, but we can get through this issue first. So when we finish this issue, please call on me regarding that.
Okay. Mr. Ernst?
Yeah, if we're going to use the charter itself as the basic outline for all of our meetings, go through it article by article, which I think is a good process. Okay?
What was the next?
It seems to me that if you do have something up front where the public can speak on something, but it's to that particular article, so that we don't skip around where the public recommends, or that we can take it, but say, we'll get back to that when we get to Article 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. But if we follow the outline of the Home Rule Charter, we'll get to composition. We'll get to how many councilmen. We'll get to everything associated with how many councilmen, at large, all the other things that would be talked about. So we don't have to have a specific topic agenda necessarily. If we say, let's say 2 meetings out, we're going to discuss Article 2 and all the pieces, parts of Article 2, one at a time. And anybody that's got a topic that the public wants to bring in, council size or whatever, that's in Article 2, that would be our outline for the meeting.
Yes. That's the way I envision it.
Okay.
But I was trying to tell you that meeting probably would be during the daytime. And I'm getting a consensus that that's going to be a hot issue, and we want to make sure that those folks that are working have the opportunity to be here on the hot issues.
Can I make a recommendation? Maybe
Yeah.
for that one at the next, you do Article 1, Article 2 during the day, but I'm guessing you're going to need a whole meeting just on that topic.
I agree.
You know, so maybe the following meeting after you talk about Article or Section 2, that will be a night meeting, and then you can talk about that specific topic, because it would be still in order, because you just had went over Article 2, but you devote a whole meeting to that specific topic to make sure it's at night.
I think what you're saying is you have Article 1, start Article 2, get as far as you get in Article 2 and stop. And then the
Correct.
next one, you complete Article 2.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I was really trying to get a feel for what we think this is going to involve and how it's going to take the process. But, I mean, so the next meeting, we will go through, we'll probably end up on Article 2. And to answer your question, in reference to when should we have ours submitted, and I think we got a meeting next Thursday, so it needs to be submitted by Monday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday? Tuesday.
I think the consensus is y'all want it to the public by Monday, so you need to get it to us by Thursday.
Or Friday.
So this Thursday? Okay. Well, I would encourage you to submit those to the staff. At the same time, be prepared to go through Article 1 and Article 2. And we'll see how far we get, and that way the public will know. We're probably going to get to composition.
And we could be on composition for
Yeah,
meetings.
yeah, we might end up going 2 or 3 meetings, because we don't have to have a conclusion at the meeting on a decision that night, okay? And probably won't. I mean, I'm just guessing. So I would encourage the public for Thursday, the 23rd, at 6 p.m. here. We'll begin a lot of the discussion on the incorporation, the form of government, the boundaries and the powers, and we'll get to Article 2, the Parish Council, which includes composition, qualifications, elections, and the like. Anything else before?
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry, we got some more speakers. Who's up? Mr. M.
in regards to the meeting date,
Yeah.
and I agree with you, I don't believe in changing dates. I know they need to be consistent. But since the first date conflicts with 3 council members as well as the parish president, I would like to make a motion if we could just start the first meeting on the 13th. I do not like to miss meetings, or we could find an alternate time in between. And I don't want to confuse the public, I promise, it's not my intention. But I do not want to miss that meeting. And I think considering the, 3 council members and the parish president will all not be here for it. And we know it's going to be important, so.
So we could. So Joe, is your motion to move it to?
I'd make the motion to move it to the 13th unless you all would like to do something in between, but that may be confusing to the public and to everybody else. So I'll do either 13th. So I'd make a motion to move the first meeting to the 13th. And look, like we said earlier.
Yeah, it's still the same dates. I mean, it's still a Thursday.
Same.
Right.
Same Thursday. It's
And I'm
just
truly
moving it.
sorry, but it was planned.
That would give
before.
everybody a little more time to read these documents, look at what you want to talk about, and submit them.
Thank you. So that's the motion.
Mr. Laughlin.
Yeah, I was going to go ahead and second that, and also bring home the point, because we don't have enough time to create the mechanism for us to have alternates yet.
Okay.
So that would
That's a good
second.
point. Good point. Do I have anybody else to speak? No. So we have a motion, and did I have a second?
Yes.
Second? Okay. Any objections? All in favor, say aye. Aye. So moved.
Yes.
So we're going to move, well, actually, we're just going to begin the process, is really, instead of saying move and to confuse everybody. Our next meeting will be on February 13th. And it will be a afternoon meeting, okay? Is that okay? It'll be an afternoon meeting.
2 or 2:30?
2:30 was the request.
That's when it was on Tuesday.
Well, I know. Anybody want to change that back to 2, or you want to leave it at 2:30? 2:30 is fine? Okay. Mr. Laughlin?
I would just like, I don't know if we have to do it, I don't know if we have to do it formally, but I would ask the staff to basically create a virtual binder for the public so they can have the same thing we do. And then perhaps we provide at the dais or at the podium, we provide a laminated one that they can use if they need to reference something. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Good. Ms. LeBlanc?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to let you know my colleague to my left had to leave because of a trial that he had to attend. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Ernst?
Yeah, did we decide on parliamentarian?
Yes, sir. Scott Delacroix is our parliamentarian.
Okay, I got it. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So he'll keep us in line. Anything else before the committee? Anything from the public? You keep, yes, ma'am.
Hi, everybody. So I know my name is Theda Mason of Slidell, Louisiana. So one of the questions I have is twofold. The first one is, I know that right now for the parish meetings, they're posted a couple of weeks or so after. I guess my question is, what if we're meeting twice a month, what's the turnaround time to get the meeting posted so that the public can view it, so that they're prepared for the second meeting? That, and I guess, just so that they would have a chance to see it. And then secondly, I'm thinking what we don't want to do is revisit the same issues we talked about at 2 o'clock, 2 weeks later at 6 o'clock, because they couldn't make it. So I'm just wondering if they would have enough time, if it would be posted online quickly enough for them to view it. That would be my first question. Right. And the second question is, where do I go to get a copy of the articles so that I'm even prepared for the next meeting? Okay, thank y'all very much.
Mr. Laughlin, did you?
Yeah, I could answer part of that question. I do know that our PIO has done an excellent job of getting the, especially the daytime meetings are usually either posted that night or they're posted by the next morning. They've actually done a great job. They've even had our council meetings up the same night sometimes. So that's another reason why the daytime is going to be easier to accommodate.
And then the charter is on our website. If you go to the council portal, go under documents, and it is there. And there's another tab as well for Home Rule Charter Committee, so we'll be adding other things to that tab as well.
Okay. So at our next meeting, do you expect that we'll be able to have BGR or others here? Okay, in case anybody has any questions.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, I don't have any lights on, no discussion. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Do we have to keep these?